Welcome into another edition of the Marc Gasol podcast, where we talk all things Marc Gasol. Today, we'd like to celebrate his championship. I think. I'm kidding, of course.
You are?
I'm Marc Gasol.
Pleasure meeting you, sir.
This is Sport Ball with Squam, Stogie, and Skulldog. I'm your boy Sam, with me as always, and today in person.
My goodness.
Are my good friends Seth and Kyle. How you guys doing?
Hey.
Hey.
For those of you at home watching this on YouTube, you're not actually watching it because we're not recording a video due to only one viewer per video being achieved by us. So it'll just be audio this time. Apologies to my friend, not coworker, Trevor Price of On the Ice with Trevor Price, for not having a video.
Lovely program.
I listen to it every morning on my commute. All right, we have a lot to get through today, guys. So should we stop fucking around or what?
Yeah, I got a dog I need to get back to, so.
Same here. How about you, Seth?
I'm going to a wedding later.
So he's alone.
He's
no
got
dog.
no dog in this race. Horse in this race, huh?
So we have a lot of NBA to hit. I wanted to start out with a finals recap because, after all, that is the most important part of the season, you might say. Then we'll hit next year's finals odds and do some free agent talk, and finally a draft recap, which I'm sure Kyle will handle most of that since me and Seth only know players that we saw in the Sweet 16 and on.
Yep.
All right, let's hit the finals first. So the Toronto Raptors are your 2019 NBA champions, which I would pretty much guess none of us predicted at the beginning of the year. What are you guys' thoughts on the Raptors, on Kawhi's playoff run, and on the Warriors and where they go from here? 4 topics, hit them all.
I mean, Kawhi just shows again that come playoff time, he is probably top 3-4 player in the NBA when it comes to big games. He put the team on his back when they needed, and when he was struggling, everyone else stepped up. So, I mean, they took what was theirs. I'm glad they did. The only person I would have enjoyed seeing win on the Warriors was Klay Thompson. So.
Yeah, Kyle Lowry played his best playoffs by far of his career, which was maybe because they didn't need him as much as they have relied on him in previous years. It was nice to see Mark, as much as we've joked about it. I'm glad that he got a championship, even though it could be debated how much of an integral part of the team he was. And
Would it be debated?
I was once KD and Clay went out, then it was DeMarcus Cousins, who was their basically second option on offense.
Right.
And then they didn't even have Gasol in the game. I'm like, I thought this is the entire point was to have him to guard a big guy who's going to be a bruiser down low. But
well, he needed a little bit of rest.
Okay.
Usually in Spain, they
can't play 48 siestas. Yeah, so credit goes to the Raptors, but it was just a shame to see those 2 marquee injuries for the Warriors. I think a lot of other people have debated for many hours about Durant's injury, how much the team knew beforehand. Was it always an Achilles injury? Why did they think he couldn't get re-injured? All that kind of stuff. But for me, it was just a bummer, and you hate to see that in the finals. And then with Clay's injury as well, I think most people are pretty confident he'll come back, to be his current self again. But I don't know if it's an asterisk on their championship. I don't really like when people say that because injuries happen every year. And if you go and look throughout NBA history, there are champions that happen because of injuries.
The Warriors.
2015.
Exactly,
yeah. Most of their wins.
Yeah, the Warriors in 2015 had the pleasure of playing LeBron without Kyrie and Kevin Love. And, I mean, every championship year you need a lot of luck. That's just how it works in the NBA. A lot of injury luck and a lot of matchup luck. So I certainly don't think, they deserve an asterisk. I think they deserve a lot of credit for winning.
But it just would have been more fun if they at least had been playing against Clay and stuff.
For sure. Yeah, let's delve a little bit into the Achilles injury for Durant. I mean, my thoughts are that I want to give the Warriors the benefit of the doubt, right? But obviously the results are what they are, And I'm sure they wouldn't have let him play if they thought there was, higher than a 1% chance or whatever it may be or even a 1% chance that his Achilles was going to tear or had been compromised by his previous injury. And I am confident that they didn't force him to play, and that I'm confident that he wanted to play, because as much, I don't know why we give him so much flack for assuming that he just wanted to sit out. I know for a fact that he wanted to play because that's what he loves to do. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind about that. Okay, I don't know that for a fact because I'm not close personal friends with Kevin Durant.
You're not?
What?
He's here in the room right now.
I mean, he's here, but he's just an acquaintance. I mean, it's just a shame that it happened. Obviously, the Warriors are going to have to rethink what their process is in letting him play, but I don't want to really... I guess I don't want to blame the Warriors for what happened, or really Kevin Durant. I think it's just a shame that it happened, but I don't know if it was necessarily a mistake by the Warriors or if it was a mistake because of the results, I mean, I guess you have to say it was a mistake because he tore his Achilles, right? But I'm not sure what else they could have done.
I mean, obviously, Kevin Durant's a competitor. He wanted to play. Any NBA player that's injured wants to play. They want to get back on the court. So it has nothing to do with him. It's just I had qualms with the Warriors medical staff, obviously, for there was obviously something more wrong that they didn't tell us initially. Just a calf strain wouldn't have kept him out, I don't think, for over a month. And then at the position they were in, they were down 3-1. And we know historically, those are odds. The odds are stacked against you like crazy to come back from that to win. So to put him in a position to say, go ahead and play when the chances of us winning have only been done once in history, it's just a weird situation. And that's really what my whole thing was about it.
So you don't think he should have played at all?
I mean, at that point, no. If it was a 2-2 series and they were comfortable, obviously, letting him play, let him play. But down 3-1, it didn't make sense to me to have to, put him even in a position to injure himself more when the odds of winning another championship were so low at that point. When he's one of, if not the best player in the NBA, you want him healthy. And now, you took your chances and he injured himself even worse, and now he's out at least until the playoffs next year if everything goes well in his rehab. So, you had that, and then you also had Kevon Looney, too, who shouldn't have been playing either. Obviously, they said that he wanted to play. Yeah, again, he's an NBA player. He's a competitor. He wants to play. The dude tore his rotator cuff or something.
I'm no doctor.
He couldn't move his arm.
I'm no doctor, but it seemed like that injury was actually Sam Scully, PhD, not medical though.
Oh, makes sense.
But it seemed like one of those injuries where he just broke his collarbone or something, and
that was a rib.
Yeah, something in that area.
It's a rotator cuff. Do we know?
I'm not a doctor.
I don't know body parts.
And he was in a lot of pain, but couldn't really injure it more. He just had to it was just a question of if he could play through the pain. But then he just kept getting hit, and he just couldn't handle it. I think that's what happened there. And with my question with Kevin Durant is okay, you say he should have played if it was 2-2. Well, if he's fine enough to play if it's 2-2, then he's fine enough to play in a game. So
I think if the Warriors have to believe with the talent they have on their team that they could come back from a 3-1. You can't just roll over and assume that it's not worth it because we don't have a chance of winning now. I think they have to believe as a franchise that they still had a chance. And probably if Kevin Durant did come back and was fully healthy and didn't re-injure himself, I believe they could have. Not saying they definitely would have, but
I mean, Game 6 was very close.
Yeah, but my whole thing is just from a statistics standpoint and an odds standpoint, the odds of doing, pulling off the coming back from 3-1 didn't overweigh or over. Is overweight? No, over.
Underproof.
Either way, it didn't outweigh the fact that Kevin Durant's coming off of an injury where he didn't play for a month, and reports of him at practices where he wasn't even running. He was spot up shooting at all, the couple practices that he had leading up to when he came back in the game.
I take a little umbrage with you with like the odds of the three. I understand what the odds of the 3-1 comeback are. It's only happened once, but I think you kind of throw the odds out when you're adding in the best player in the league, right? I mean, that makes it completely different. The odds of you coming back from 3-1 when it's a completely different team with the best player in the league,
Yeah, but still, I mean, that's just my thoughts on it, and that's my opinion, and.
What does that make me?
I know you guys don't agree, but I wouldn't have taken the chance.
I mean, I see your side of it for sure.
To do that when I already have the best player in the league. Yeah, he might leave in free agency. You never know. But I'm not going to put a player's career at risk to do something that's been done once in the history of the NBA,
I mean, I'm not gonna say you're not
go
right
back and
because
forth all day.
I mean, I'm not gonna. I don't really have an argument against you because what happened was he tore his Achilles. I mean, the results.
So I was right. Yeah. Just say it. I was right.
The results support you, but I'm more inclined to believe that it was just kind of a freak thing than any fault to anyone. But it's just really depressing because no one's ever come back from an Achilles injury and been the same again. I just don't think we're ever going to see the same Kevin Durant again, which is really depressing.
Yeah, I don't know. It hasn't happened yet, so I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Who's to say? We'll find out in a little over a year.
Not me. All right, so do you think... I guess my next question, kind of related to that injury, it's twofold, you might say. Kyle's just got up.
I'm moving this chair.
He's moving a chair. For those at home, riveting podcast work here. He's lifting.
He's trying to do it gently so it doesn't make too much noise. Just start the podcast.
I just hit him behind.
I feel much more comfortable out here.
Okay, all right, let's move over a little bit.
We're readjusting.
Yeah.
And we're back.
Okay, so my question is twofold.
And your first was fourfold.
I'll ask it thrice. Okay, so kind of going hand in hand, what do you think? Do you think Kevin Durant will re-sign with the Warriors? Do you think he will go to the Knicks? Do you think that its injury helped the Warriors retain him or hurt their chances of retaining him? And then maybe talk about what you think that means for the Warriors going forward and if they can, even be any sort of title contender next year.
Based on reports that I've seen already, is that the Warriors are going to sign both Kevin Durant and Klay, at least for next season. Sign them to those max deals, and while that seems weird considering Klay probably won't play until at least after the All-Star break, and Kevin Durant might not play at all next season, it's the Warriors doing something for players that have helped them win 3 championships. So another thing I read was that they might, when they re-sign Kevin Durant, they might just do so to help him rehab with the know that he's going to be traded to another team and kind of help each other out, because then if he's signed with the Warriors and traded, they'll at least be able to get something back from that. So
that makes sense. Yeah, I think that would work well for both teams.
Yeah,
I think that
mutually beneficial parting of ways.
Yeah,
perhaps.
Yeah,
and I think that I would be fine with doing that if I was the Warriors. I mean, I'm fine with throwing away next year. I mean, maybe not. I think Steph and Draymond and the ragtag gang of non-shooters can at least sneak into the playoffs.
They're not going to sneak in. I think they'll still be like a 5 seed,
Yeah, I don't think they'll be top 4 seed, though. I guess that's what I meant by sneak. They'll still be frisky.
It could be 5, but there's no way in hell they could be 4.
Absolutely no way.
Not a chance.
And then you get Klay. You'll definitely get Klay back. He'll definitely stay, I think, for the next year. And you can run it back with the Splash Brothers at least. Maybe Kevin stays as well. So, I mean, I think you have that luxury, right? When you can throw that money at those players and take a year off. So
it seems like, ironically, the injury helped the Warriors in so much as their chances of keeping Kevin Durant, because it seemed like before the injury, everyone was just had him already penciled in on the Knicks.
Right.
And so now maybe he'll stay, whether he signs the max deal, maybe he does a 1-and-1 to see how his rehab goes, or maybe they at least get something back from him if they're able to make a trade, which would be some consolation, because the other option would be if they just let him go, or if he leaves in free agency, then maybe they have some cap space to sign somebody who can help them next year. But so I think it really doesn't put them in too bad of a position, and I think given that they have Steph Curry still, I'm not going to rule them out from anything in the future, and we'll see how Clay's recovery goes. And
it'd be kind of fun to watch just like
his role players.
Just Steph next year, like probably scoring more than 30 a game, and just trying to lift this group to any sort of offensive success.
Yeah,
being able just to watch late night Steph Curry and Draymond Green pick and roll action, I think is going to be a beautiful way to fall asleep.
I mean, it's going to give me a lot of wet dreams, that's for sure. I also wanted to mention, this is really bad for the Knicks. I mean, because best case scenario, you get a KD coming off an Achilles tear next year. Worst case scenario, he decides, I'm going to rehab with the Warriors, and you know what? I kind of like it here. I'll just stay. So
well, and then they were probably going to get somebody else in free agency this year
right,
that they're not going to get now because
Kyrie
why would they go
Kemba.
if Kevin Durant's not playing this year?
Exactly.
Because they got R.J. Barrett.
R.J. Wetnut. Call him by his Christian name. How about the Raptors? So it's kind of funny because, you know, they're either one of the title favorites for next year or Kawhi is gone, right? And they probably still make the playoffs, but certainly aren't favorites by any means. Do you think this makes Kawhi stay in Toronto winning this championship, or do you think he's gone to LA?
It's Kawhi.
Who's to say?
Yeah, I mean, Kawhi is, you know, he solidified himself as one of my 3-4 favorite players in the NBA just based on videos I watched of him. You know, we think he's quiet and stuff, but he's actually a pretty funny guy.
Yeah.
So those New Balance shirt that just said "fun guy" were true. And then New Balance came out with "Boardman Gets Paid" shirts in Times New Roman font. And they sold out in 20 minutes on their website after they won the championship. Yeah, we got to get some of those. I just said they sold out.
Well, you got connections, right?
I might. But I honestly don't know. There were pictures that came out yesterday of Kawhi at Home Depot buying moving boxes. So
of course.
I love the NBA offseason.
But he could be moving to another place in Toronto. Right, you never know.
Well, and he he does have the house in Brentwood or wherever.
I love the NBA offseason where we all become realtors and
So I don't know. Like, it's weird to think about. In one season, Kawhi solidified himself as the best Raptors player ever, right?
Yeah. Besides the future Pascal Siakam, of course.
Right.
I mean, the funny thing is, I feel like it's like almost 50-50 at this point, don't you? Like, it's so up in the air. Like, I could definitely see him signing in for Toronto for a 1-1, run it back with Mark and Kyle and Serge, because all those contracts are up in 2020, so they could probably take another year, and then at the end of the year he reassesses, says, well, all these contracts are up, I'll just go to LA now. Or he might say, well, I've done what I came here to do. I brought the Toronto championship. Now I want to live in LA where I've always wanted to live. And, I mean, more power to him if he does that. So it's very up in the air, and I think the odds really reflect that because I think aren't both the Raptors and Clippers 10-1 for the winning the championship next year?
The Clippers are 10-1. The Raptors are 7.5-1. I just looked.
So maybe the Raptors are the prohibitive favorites to keep him at this point, judging by the sports books. What do they know, though? Let's just read all the odds for the people, would you? Because
are we just moving on to next year's final odds? I'm not reading all the odds.
Just read the ones that we're interested in. These people need to know what their best bet should be.
We already know what the best bet is.
Yeah, we'll read the top 5-ish, and then we'll give our best bet.
But
say it in a way I like it when you do like the 3-1, 9-1.
Right.
I don't understand the other kind.
Okay, so.
This is why I'm such a good gambler.
The Lakers are the overwhelming favorites next year. They are.
Which is wild.
Yeah, honestly, they have no other players.
2.5-1. And then after them, you got the Milwaukee Bucks at 6.5-1. And then I misspoke earlier. Toronto is 7-1, not 7.5. The Warriors are 8.5-1.
What are the Sixers?
The Sixers are 11-1.
That's kind of decent value.
The Rockets are 9-1. And those are like the top teams. Everything else is double digit, over 11-1 odds.
Give them our two good ones.
My two favorites so far are our favorite is Denver at 18-1. So put a $100 bet on Denver. They win the title. You win 1,800.
Well, here's the thing. We just talked about the Warriors having two huge injuries, right? The Lakers traded for Anthony Davis, but they haven't really filled out their roster yet, so who knows what happens there. Houston has a bit of turmoil internally, which we'll get to later. The West is wide open, right?
This is what we said last year about the East. The East was wide open when LeBron left, and now you have a dynasty team that's run the West get severe injuries of two of their best three players. And
so if you can find a team at 18-1 who has a top 8 player in Jokic in the league,
and should have made the conference finals,
we know is what you need to win a championship, right? And we just said the West is wide open. I think that's a great value.
And there's reports that Michael Porter Jr. has been looking incredible so far during camp this offseason.
Attractiveness or just
both?
Yeah,
his style, I tell you.
Yeah, but I'm really excited for this next season too, because this is the first season since LeBron went to Miami that we haven't really known who the prohibitive favorite is to win the championship, right? I mean, it just feels so wide open.
And Denver has young players that you would expect to continue to get better.
Jamal,
they're not making any big moves in free agency.
Jamal impressed me in the playoffs.
Jamal in the last 2 rounds of the playoffs was pretty lights out.
I love Jamal, dude.
He's got to work on his defense this summer, and if that's something that he does do, and we even get twice as good defense of what he is, which he's not anything right now. Defensively,
he's a chair.
Those are just great odds, and then with the new news of Utah getting Mike Conley.
Junior. Is he a junior?
No.
Senior, excuse me.
Utah junior?
The Jazz are 25-1, and we just talked about how wide open the West was. And you have Mike Conley, who's great at defense. Really good scoring, too. Donovan Mitchell in his 3rd year, who we know what Donnie is. And then you have the best, arguably, rim protector in the NBA, or one of, in Rudy Gobert.
The only thing that worries me about that one, although I will say 25-1 is great value for them, so actually I've decided I'm in on that as well.
Good.
But the only thing that would worry me about them is they don't really have a superstar, unless Donnie takes that leap into maybe a top 12 player. Then I could see them running through the West. But otherwise, it would have to be more in like the Detroit Pistons, great defense, no superstar kind of.
I think that's probably more of what we're gonna see defensively now with the addition of Conley is gonna be one of the, if not the best defensive team in the NBA, I think.
Yeah, but
are they gonna ditch the doggy style defense on James Harden next year in the playoffs? You think?
Maybe.
Who's to say, really?
One more thing on the Nuggets too. I would say we should jump on that bet before they sign a free agent, because I think they're gonna be pretty aggressive in the free agent market, maybe for a Tobias Harris or a type like that. So that probably will bring their odds down. So we gotta
get on this.
Well, that's
they get Tobias.
Kyle's our bookie, but he never makes any bets.
No, he doesn't.
Aren't you glad? If I did, we would have just been out money at the
That's true. We were gonna bet on the Celtics.
So I'm foreseeing.
We're gonna bet on the Celtics like 4 times until we realized that they were dysfunctional.
I'm in 2029 while you guys are in 2019. I don't know what to tell you.
In 2029, sports betting is banned again, so you can't make any.
All right, are we ready to move on to the Anthony Davis trade?
Certainly.
Which we've circled around but haven't really smacked right in the face. Let me look up what exactly it was, because it's very complicated. No, that's not what I want to read. All right, so
I want to read something else that takes me 5 minutes to get to. That is it actually the same.
I want to be an in-podcast researcher like Kyle. Okay, so the Lakers received Anthony Davis, a good player. You might have heard of him. One unibrow, one dream. And the Pelicans get Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, the number 4 pick in the draft, which ended up being traded to the Atlanta Hawks for
8.
They do this thing where Sam says all the other words in the sentence. Kyle says the ones you actually care about.
And then the
8 and 17, I think, right?
Yeah, and then the Pelicans also received a slew of Lakers future picks. The 21 pick, if it falls within the top 8. Otherwise, it goes into an unprotected 2022 first round pick, which is big because both of those years might be the first year of the double draft where high school players become available.
It's 2022 or 2023.
I don't think we know yet.
Wow.
2023 is the unprotected pick
I just got off the phone with the
that was
commissioner.
swapped with the Rapers.
What?
What am I saying right now?
Holy shit, he's falling apart.
What just happened?
And then they also have swapping rights on first rounders in 2023. So if the Lakers have a better pick, they can swap with them. Then they also have the Lakers' unprotected first round pick in 2024, where conceivably LeBron will be gone or old. Well, he'll definitely be old. He may be gone.
I mean, he may be gone before that.
But then they also
three
have
more years, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's the last year of his contract.
2023.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so he'll definitely be gone and presumably dead in 2024. And but they also, if they don't like that 2024 pick, they can just move it to 2025 and it's unprotected if they decide that's better for them. So basically,
I'll tell you right now, the 2025 lottery picks look fantastic.
I've been watching them in 8th grade.
I've
Let
been
me tell
following
you.
the 7th and 8th grade circuit pretty heavily.
Do they look as good as Michael Porter Jr. though?
No. When he
No,
walks in a
certainly
room,
not.
everyone stops.
Just lights up a room.
He looks terrible at basketball though.
The
So-
man can't stand the court.
Here's what I want to discuss. I'll give you another fourfold topic. Who won this trade? That's it. Let's just start with that.
There are 3 more folds. I send you back.
let's just start with that. Kyle, why don't you go? Because I know you're gonna say the Pelicans won it.
The Pelicans did win the trade. Well, it's hard to say because obviously the Lakers did what they had to do to pair LeBron with another superstar who we were arguing before he got injured is, could be said to be the, best player in the NBA. He was averaging 24, 14, and something like that. He was averaging something crazy.
I think your
More than
points were
24.
too low and your rebounds were too high.
I
Wasn't
don't
it like
know.
28 and 12 or
It was like
something?
20 and 13.
Oh, that's much different.
You said rebounds are too high. It's not 14, it's 13.
You fool. The Warriors are going to be forced to
Either
be
way.
a fish team.
Either way. So, he's the best big man in the NBA, though, right? Maybe
Definitely.
Jokic is up there. But that's just coming from me, so he really wasn't.
You gotta take AD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
At the same time, though, with what the Pelicans did with the picks that they got, they killed the draft. And really just, obviously you got Zion.
Williamson or otherwise?
Heard of him.
Yeah.
Or National Park. They actually traded the National Park.
So, I don't know. It's tough to say now.
Yeah. I mean, with
Just like everything else we've talked about, we really can't say.
I mean, because this trade has so many future picks, like, it could end up being all, like, picks in the 20s, or some of them could, like, one could end up being the number 1 overall pick in the draft. So it's really hard to say, like, what exactly the haul is for the Pelicans, right?
Pelicans are just going to do this thing where they get the number 1 pick, like, every 7 years. And it's
Yeah.
monumental superstar player.
And, like, we don't really know what Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball are going to turn into. So those are, like, the 2 huge factors that are really up in the air.
I think we all agree the Pelicans did well. They needed
Yeah.
to trade AD.
Yeah.
They got probably more in exchange than anyone has ever gotten in trading a superstar.
Yeah.
Especially one that they knew was disgruntled and was going to leave in a year anyways.
Right.
That being said, nothing that they got is like surefire 100% gonna be a superstar, gonna
Zion.
be an all-star. But that wasn't from the trade. They just got
true.
Zion
Okay,
from
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you got, like, so they got all these things, but I can almost guarantee nothing they got is going to be as good as Anthony Davis. So,
Now,
it's
no
possible,
one
but-
person
Yeah.
is probably from that trade going to be as good as Anthony Davis, but
Together, they
some
might
of
be.
them might
Yeah.
be greater than Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
but
So I think
some of us are greater than others.
both teams are happy, which is why they made the trade. What?
Is that how trades
They
work?
both wanted to do it, and I hate the Lakers. So
Are they happy though? Can we talk about Rob Pelinka not understanding the fact that if they processed the trade on July
Yeah.
7th, they lost out on like $7 or $8 million?
Yeah, so basically if they process the trade when they first can, which is July 6th or whatever,
Yes, the 6th.
then the Lakers will only have about
23.
$23 million in cap space available because Anthony Davis gets like a $4 million trade kicker or some bullshit like that. And apparently Rob was like, "Oh, I didn't realize we wouldn't have a
And
max
it
spot
would've-
if we did this."
Not just that, they would have got compensation money for their picks too.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
so
just another blunder by the Lakers front office that hasn't really done anything right
here's my
the last
qualm.
10 years.
Here's my
They
qualm
would
with
have had
this.
close to $32 million if they would have processed it on July 31st. or July 30th.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think the Pelicans are going to let them do that unless they put a
No, the
little
Pelicans
sweetener.
didn't let them do that. That's
Well,
why.
unless they put a little sweetener, they send them like maybe a box of Splenda.
We're running low in the office, and we love Splenda in our coffee. Save us.
It's like when Kyle Korver got traded for a copy machine. But remember, I saw an interview where he said he's still playing in the league and the copy machine got replaced.
That was great.
So he won that one. My qualm with this is, so even if the Lakers find some way to open up a max slot, the problem is the only players currently on their roster are LeBron. You may have heard of him. Anthony Davis.
Who?
And Kyle Kuzma, Mo Wagner, and some guy I don't even know what his name is.
Isaac Bonga.
Yeah.
Bonga.
So they have 4 players. 5 players under contract, and I wouldn't want to start...
How many play at a time again?
And I wouldn't even want to start 2 of them. So they have a lot of work to do on the roster. And I would feel better about this trade if I felt better about the Lakers front office and their ability to fill out a roster well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have no faith in them at all. And I think that even if they open up a max slot, what I would prefer them to do if I was a Lakers fan is fill that with several high-quality role players, because I don't necessarily want a Kemba Walker handling the ball and taking a lot of shots when I have LeBron to do that, and I already have Anthony Davis to take a lot of shots as well. And, I mean, it would be nice if you had Kemba but also had some role players, but you don't have either.
I think the question is, like, who are the actual role players that they would be able to get with that amount of money?
I think
if the choice is between Kemba Walker or, like, Garrett Temple and just a bunch of random guys, then I'd rather have Kemba. But if I could actually
Garrett's
get
body
like,
is a temple.
If I could actually get like Malcolm Brogdon and JJ Redick and Seth Curry, like I would probably take those 3 over.
Yeah,
I feel like they
That's
keep
what I'm
Rondo.
saying.
You think Rondo signs back for less though? He got $9 million last year.
Rondo
One of
would
the
be nice to
podcasts
keep.
that you don't listen to or just haven't recently was saying that at the end of the season, Rondo like pulled a bunch of shit and was like burning his bridges with the Lakers.
Because
so.
remember him? He sat like on the end of the bench, and they made a whole big deal of it.
That was so dumb though. Who cares?
But apparently it
Maybe
wasn't.
that was just a Luke Walton thing too.
Yeah,
and now that he's gone, that he would be fine. I don't know.
I would maybe they can snag like I heard some names out there like Patrick Beverly, bring Brook Lopez back. The problem is all these players are going to get like $10 million.
Yeah, I don't think they can actually afford it. Like it's easy to say in the abstract, you'd rather have those like high quality role players, but they could maybe sign one of those, and then the rest is going to be like veterans minimum.
Because most of those players are getting at least $10 million, $12 million. You know.
Contavious Caldwell-Pope last year made $12 million.
Well, if Contavious Caldwell-Pope can make $12 million, then I can make $12 million to miss corner threes.
But yeah, I think Brook, Brogdon, Patrick Beverly.
Right.
I don't imagine them getting.
I gotta say, I'm really glad they made that stupid trade halfway through to get rid of Ivica Zubac to get
they can
Mike
use
Muscala
Zubac right now.
Mike Muscala is trash. You heard it here first. I'm getting letters for that one. Okay, Kyle, I know you're going to argue that the Pelicans are going to make the playoffs this season, so tell me why.
I think they
I already know all of his points before he even says them.
They're a 4 seed or a 5 seed?
No. I think it's probably 6. You were close, though.
They're going to be 1 seed behind the Warriors?
Yeah. I think we're, Lonzo's going to come back healthy. He should. And he showed flashes, obviously, his last 2 seasons. If he could stay healthy, he's got one of the best court visions in the NBA. And you obviously have Zion, who is the best pick since, Davis, KD, one of them. And I think we keep overlooking the fact that Drew is still on the team, Holiday.
Oh, I thought talking about Drew Albright. Yeah.
Drew Holiday's still on the team. Who
no one's gonna get that except for a select few.
I mean, there's only a select few that listen.
That's
so
true.
So
shout
all
out
of
to our
our
5
listeners
listeners.
So he obviously one of the best 2-guard defenders, I would say, in the NBA. And he showed that he could shoulder the load too when there's no one else on the team to do anything. And then who knows what Brandon Ingram's going to do, but you fulfilled that center spot that they needed too in their drafts by getting Jackson Hayes from Texas. Who
Tell me about him, because I didn't watch him in the tournament, so I know nothing about him.
He wasn't in the tournament. They made the NIT though.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he is just huge. I think he's like 7. He's a little over 7 feet, and he's got like a 7'7" wingspan.
Is that good?
And
it's better than 7'6".
the one problem, one of his big problems though in college was staying out of foul trouble. But he had, I think, the second highest true shooting percentage in college last year. Like he has a role, and that's what he does. He plays, he defends, and he'll score every lob that you toss his way.
Yeah.
He'll get some rebound. Obviously, he's 7 foot, but I don't think that's really what they need when you got Zion also.
Right. Yeah. I think he's a good player to put next to Zion.
He's very athletic too. Like he can keep up with fast-paced teams. Like that's one of the things that I know he was prided on in the draft was as a center at that size, being able to have the athletic ability to run up and down the court faster than most, other players on other teams. So, and get back in that defensive position, which is going to be huge.
So my only qualm with the Pelicans making the playoffs, I mean, maybe they could sneak in, but the West is still low. I mean, it's not like there's many prohibitive favorites in the West, but it's still loaded, I think.
Top to bottom.
Yeah. Like, the only teams I can guarantee won't make the playoffs are, like, the Suns and... Is that it? Probably, right?
Who else is in the West?
The teams that are in the Western Hemisphere. But,
Is that all of them?
my qualm with that is, like, let's say their starting lineup is Lonzo, Drew Holiday, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Jackson Hayes, right?
Grizzlies won't make the playoffs.
Right, okay, so Grizzlies and Suns. That's probably it, though.
I guess maybe the Timberwolves, but who knows?
Yeah, probably. You never know. But the thing is, all those players are in their young 20s, except for Drew, and they really haven't proven anything in the league, or haven't really proven to be cohesive in winning. Right? I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs because I think they're gonna be exciting. They're gonna be decent, but I don't think we should really expect a team that young to make the playoffs quite yet. But I think their future looks bright with many long playoff runs in years to come. I don't know. Like Lonzo and Ingram are pretty good, and they're certainly getting better, but they're not, fully baked yet. And obviously Zion and Jackson are rookies, so it's pretty tough to win at this level with that young of players.
Didn't they also get what's his name from? Their third first round draft pick, they got Virginia Tech Nikhil Alexander Walker. He is
do we call him Naw?
Wow, I like that.
Is he their starting point guard? Naw. Is he a point guard?
Yeah, he's technically a shooting guard.
So
he doesn't shoot though.
But defensively, I know he's also a stud, and so I like the fact that they're. That was one of the problems I feel like with them was besides Drew and Anthony Davis when he was on the court, no one else on that team could defend. And now they had a lot, defensive depth through the draft. So I don't know. I like to also overreact to big name, players coming out of college. So
well, the thing is, they're all talented players, but when's the last time a team made the playoffs where their best players are like rookies and third-year players? An impossible question to answer.
Utah last year? Or 2 years ago now?
Well, when Donnie led them, yeah. But they had, Rudy, who's pretty old.
They have Drew.
Yeah. So the Utah Jazz...
It's happened before. It's not inconceivable,
I guess I wouldn't
it's not
be
likely.
I guess I wouldn't be, shocked if they sneak into a low seed, but I would be mildly surprised. Do you guys think the Lakers should be favorites?
Definitely not.
I mean, who's to say? I have to see the rest of their roster, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of rosters that are still up in the air, so that's why we don't know what's going to happen. But the Lakers should not because I don't like them. So, next question. No, I mean, it is questions. Really how much confidence do you have in them being able to fill out the rest of their roster?
Right, I don't have
Maybe some bookies are thinking that they will get Kemba and that's all they need. Or maybe it just speaks to how wide open the West is, and they say, all right, well, one team has LeBron, so it's probably going to be them.
But the premise thing, we're talking about, them spending basically the rest of their cap on another max player so that they could have technically their own big three. I mean, the last time LeBron did this in Cleveland, they made it to the finals however many years in a row, you know? Like, it was him, Kevin Love, and Kyrie, and then what was the rest of the team?
Right.
No one.
Anthony Davis is way better than Kevin Love and Kyrie. So.
Probably combined, so. Then you add, you know, one, like a pretty decently, I feel like, underrated point guard in Kemba, who can create his own shot and, you know, distributes the ball well.
So, is there any way they can get a max slot somehow, right? Because
if they
Kemba's not signing for 22.
They get rid of Wagner and Bonga, but then I don't.
Well, how
you're
much
still
money
going to be over the tax no matter what. I'm pretty sure. So,
yeah.
Unless they just fill out the rest of the roster, which is what, like 12 players of just
ass
veteran minimums.
Yeah, that has to be right. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. But I mean, certainly they have a good shot at the finals. Either way, but I don't think the value is very good with those odds.
It's LeBron with the best player he's ever played with,
right.
And possibly a third player who's just as good as, you know, any other player he's ever played with.
I just can't wait to see like hopefully a motivated LeBron next year with Anthony Davis on his team. Hopefully he just comes out and
we basically have like LeBron on a year and a half of rest at this point,
exactly,
though.
Yeah.
So
that could be dangerous.
That is dangerous.
I'm getting a little aroused.
I don't know about a year and a half.
Well, I mean.
What did he play last year? 30 games?
Right, so that's 1 year of rest.
Yeah, but playoff rest at least. You know, he hasn't played hard playoff games since last playoffs.
So by the time
we
get to the playoffs...
So a season and a half, technically, I guess. Right?
He's had some rest. How much? It's up for debate.
I'm just saying he played his last year in Cleveland.
Right.
So then he's had 1 year of rest up until the start of next season. He'll have 1 year of rest. I'm not sure where you get into the half.
By missing the playoffs when it's LeBron who usually plays the playoffs, so that's, you know.
Add another half.
I would say based on how tough the playoffs can be, I'm adding that as like an extra, you know.
Counts as a full half season.
Right.
Understood.
All right, well, should we move on or what?
Yeah, might as well.
Okay, so let's talk about the Celtics, Kyrie, Al, the entire state.
Danny draft picks?
I know you're both going to come in hot on this one.
I'm limbering up, ready for this.
Let me give a little background. Kyrie is basically packed his bags for Brooklyn.
He's ghosted them. He's ghosted the
Celtics, although...
Good riddance.
Yeah, the Celtics don't really care. I mean, maybe they say they do, but... Seth doesn't, and he is the Celtics.
Right.
And Al Horford has said that he's not coming back to the Celtics, which is another big blow. Seth's literally crying right now. And so they're going to roll into next season, it looks like, unless they make another big move with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and that's about it. So
Gordon Hayward, baby.
I always forget about him. I know. So, Seth, why don't you start since you're a Celtics fan, and you tell us your feelings on the state of the Celtics, and maybe talk a little bit about Danny Ainge because Kyle's been at his throat in the last few days.
Right. So I'm disappointed the Celtics are not re-signing Al Horford. And it was a roller coaster of emotions because the first reports were saying Al is opting out, but he's likely to re-sign with the Celtics and get a few more years of security for less money. And now it's looking like he's for sure leaving. So I wonder how much money Al's going to get from somebody else, and I guess that'll determine if I feel like the Celtics should have paid him that amount or not. Other than that, I still feel like Danny Ainge has done a really good job, and I don't really blame him for the kind of downward swing in the roller coaster where we're at right now. I think kind of like we talked about with the Durant injury, it's like you have to base the quality of a decision not too much on the outcome, but just on the information that you had at the beginning when you were making that decision, right? So we go back and look through the trades that the Celtics did not make in the past, right? They didn't get Paul George. Well, at the time, everyone thought he would be a 1-year rental, so they didn't really want to give up anything. And
maybe he would have been on the Celtics.
Yeah.
Maybe he just loves Russell Westbrook, and that's the reason he stayed.
Or maybe it was tampering with the Lakers and a conspiracy, whatever. And even that year, he wasn't as good as he was this past year as well. And then Kawhi, there was even more uncertainty around that because you had the injury factor. You didn't know if he was going to return to his pre-injury form or what that whole thing was going on.
And another 1-year rental.
And another 1-year rental.
Which still could come true.
Yeah. So I don't blame them for that. in hindsight, I would say, yeah, we should have done Kawhi for Jaylen Brown or whatever.
That's the one trade where, in hindsight, that was a mistake.
Right. And so, but maybe you can say, like, well, I need my general manager to, like, be able to see into the future and, like, calculate those risks correctly. But I can't really blame him because I would have done the same thing in that situation. And then now, Davis, again, would project as a 1-year rental. So,
but they also still probably would have tried for him.
Especially if they're losing Kyrie.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So the one trade that they did do was getting Kyrie Irving, which at the moment of the trade seemed like a steal that everyone in the league would have done.
And Isaiah even later it does, honestly, because Isaiah isn't even a rotation player anymore.
Right. Isaiah crumbled, which was a bummer. But we got Kyrie Irving, and, you know, the one thing you could say is maybe we should have anticipated kind of the turmoil that he'd bring to the locker room because of the nature of him requesting a trade away from Cleveland. But I don't think anyone in the league really predicted that was going to happen or that was just who he was as a player. Whereas now that's kind of what we're thinking is like that's just who he is and he's never going to be happy and not a good teammate, etc. So I think Danny did a good job with all those moves. We also need to give him credit for signing Al Horford and signing Gordon Hayward to begin with. If Gordon had never gotten injured, maybe this is a completely different conversation, right? You never know what would have happened the last 2 years. If we had Utah Gordon Hayward a year ago in the playoffs when we made the Eastern Conference Finals, if we just had Hayward on that team, even without Kyrie, maybe they beat the Cavs. I don't know. And even still, with Al leaving, I'm fairly optimistic. I don't think we're a title favorite, but if Gordon can make another step back towards what he used to be, if Jason and Jalen can progress as we might expect them to, I think we'll definitely have a competitive team in the East, and hopefully the team chemistry will rebound and Marcus Smart will do his thing.
One more thing, too. You got to give him credit for just fleecing the Sixers on trading down for Tatum, where Tatum is a great, seems like perhaps at least has the potential to be a future All-Star, and Markelle Fultz can't even play. So obviously that one turned out pretty good for them.
Markelle Fultz looks good sitting on the sidelines, though. He's always dressed to the occasion.
Almost as good as Michael Porter Jr.
Not quite, though.
All right, Kyle, come at Danny.
So over the last couple days, my big thing was just the fact that Danny Ainge, who I now refer to as Danny Draft Picks, all he seems to want to do is just accumulate assets and future assets. And obviously, as we've seen, is unwilling to part with them pretty much to improve his team. Like, we know how small a window teams have in the NBA to win a championship. And he had the opportunity to get rid of, whether it be Jalen or Tatum, even if it was for a 1-year rental of a player, because you didn't know if Paul George would come back or if Kawhi would come back or if Kyrie stayed and you got AD, if AD would come back. But at the same time, you have to make certain decisions to improve your team in the short term in hopes that they do, make a run, and that turns into then players wanting to come back or being an even more attractive destination for other top players to come and want to play for you so that you can hopefully extend that window again. And he's just failed to do so, in my opinion, by refusing to part ways with Jaylen Brown, with Jason Tatum, who didn't come into the sophomore season, and improve like everyone thought he was going to improve. You could say, well, he just had a down year. Well, it's his second year. He should make some type of leap. And what's to say, he's not going to make another leap, or not going to make a leap going into his third year. These are players that we don't know when you could have dealt them for players that are known to be, top 10 players in the NBA. Whether it's for a year, whether it's for 2 years, those are, in my mind, decisions and trades that should have been made. You know, you can't always know the outcome of something, but you have to gamble on the, fact that it will improve your team to the extent to make an NBA Finals run.
So, a couple of things I want to say about this, and I definitely see the point of your argument, but going into last year, I think most people thought, I certainly thought, that the Celtics were primed to have a sustained championship contention run, with us assuming that Kyrie would be retained, with assuming that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum were going to take a jump forward, with assuming that Gordon Hayward would eventually return to his former self, and with assuming that they would make a move for Anthony Davis, right? All those things. I mean, you looked at the Celtics as the team with the brightest future in the league, and they wanted to keep Jaylen Brown because if you're trying to win a championship in 5 years, that's going to be, one of your 3 best players probably. And I think we were all thinking that way. And why would you throw away, looking at that, why would you throw away maybe a long sustained 5-year run at the playoffs when for a player that's going to leave in a year for maybe one title run? Now, that's maybe a little silly way to think, because it just doesn't happen that way in the NBA where you really have that sustained run, right? Unless you already have a superstar on a contract for a long time. So that was probably maybe a mistake of us to think. But my qualm with the argument that they should have traded for Kawhi, and it does obviously seem like a glaring mistake to not trade Jaylen Brown for Kawhi, since Kawhi just won a championship and Jaylen Brown was.
I thought it was Jason Tatum that was the one that was holding that up, that he didn't want to get rid of Jason.
No, it was Jaylen. That's what I heard, at least. I mean, I wasn't in on the trade talks.
Bill always says Jaylen, but I don't know if they act like the Spurs actually would have done that or not.
Right.
What they should have done is traded Kyrie for Kawhi.
Yeah. That
would have been perfect.
Yeah.
But we never could have known.
The thing is, this is all hindsight. What if Kawhi's shot doesn't go again against the 76ers and they lose in the semi? Was it the semis or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Semis, yeah.
Oh, no, it was the second round, right?
That's what the semis are.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. What if they just lost in the second round? Would anyone be making the argument that the Celtics should have traded for Kawhi Leonard? I don't know. What if they lose the Game 3 double overtime game against the Bucks and don't even make it to the conference championships? Will we still be making the argument that they should have traded for Kawhi Leonard? I mean, now that we've seen Kawhi Leonard take a team to the finals and win the championship for 1 year, I think, we say, oh, well, regardless of whether he leaves, you should have traded for him. But he could have easily lost in the second round. That he had a game-winning shot that bounced on the rim 4 times. They were down 2-0 to the Bucks, and they had to win a double overtime game to even stay in the series. So, I mean, a lot of this is based on what he did this year, I feel like, and not based on like you said, what the information that was available at the time. So it looks like a mistake in hindsight, but I don't know if we can really blame him for that.
I still trust Danny, and I am more optimistic than not about our future, but I am disappointed that Horford's leaving, and I think we probably should have paid him, but I don't know what he was asking for.
I don't think Horford fits the new style, though, that they're kind of going for after, once Kyrie left and they were presented the, I think Horford wanted to be there, but I don't know if they came to the right number, and that's kind of why.
Yeah.
That's what it seemed like, at least, and I get they don't want to hold or put all their money into, obviously Gordon Hayward's getting paid like $32 million next year. Do you really want to pay? How old is Al? Like 30 or something, or 31? Or
he's getting up there for sure.
Do you really want to pay him close to $30 million too? When at this point now you're back in kind of a rebuilding stage? Not really. So
right.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. I think that this argument is very similar to the Kevin Durant Achilles argument, right? Which is it is a mistake because of the results. It was obviously a mistake to play Kevin Durant because he tore his Achilles. It was obviously a mistake not to trade Jaylen Brown for Kawhi Leonard because Kawhi Leonard won the championship and Jaylen Brown took a step back. But at the time,
he took a step back jumper?
Yeah, and he missed it.
God,
so
can you imagine?
You can't have that on your team. So but at the time, I don't know. I think with the information presented, that was the best decision they could have made. But, you know,
Danny
didn't turn out well.
Got his draft picks,
It didn't turn out well for either parties. Anything else to say, boys?
I got something to say about Houston.
Oh, great. That's our next topic.
Really?
So, things aren't as sunshine and flowers in Houston as we may have previously thought. Although, I'd say there's a lot of flowers in Houston. Usually pretty sunny.
I've been to Houston. It was sunny while I was there.
So, there seems to be a bit of tension. I wouldn't say dysfunction. I think it's a well-run organization, but I think there's just a little, what's the word?
Turmoil?
Tension right now between the front office and Mike D'Antoni, because he hasn't been offered the extension that he would have wanted, and he hasn't been offered to be paid like he feels like he should be, and so that's a little bit of a rift. And there's also maybe a bit of a rift happening with James Harden and Chris Paul, because obviously these are two, superstars with big egos. Maybe Chris Paul's a former superstar, but and two players that like to be on the ball a lot, and that's causing a little bit of tension. There's an article by Tim McMahon on ESPN that we read this morning that kind of detailed not dysfunction, I would say tension. I think from what it sounds like, it's probably solvable, but certainly not ideal, right?
What are you talking about?
Houston Rockets?
Yeah.
You may have heard
Are you
of
talking
them?
about the Chris Paul thing?
Were you looking at your phone that whole time? I was talking that entire time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying.
So there was talking about the Chris Paul
easy.
stuff?
Let me talk one more second. There was. I know what you're gonna say. There was a report that Chris Paul
demanded a trade,
which Kyle sent to us. So I don't know why he's acting all
Yeah.
antsy over here, and that turned out to be incorrect. So. But I'm referring to an article which was, I think, well reported that there's a little bit of tension. That's all.
Oh.
Both within the whole organization, not just between
not
Paul
just
and
Harden, but the front office and Mike as well.
Oh, the D'Antoni thing. Yeah, I did hear you say that.
I'm glad I had to say it again.
I'm here.
So thoughts?
None. What to say? I agree with everything you said.
Great. I think it's and it's actually kind of tough
So-
that this is happening right now as the Warriors dynasty takes a hit.
Right.
This maybe would have been the chance, and still could be. It could be the chance for the Rockets
The
to win a
West is
championship.
wide open, as we all know.
Right, but they just have to. I feel like there's some joke to be made with saying the West is wide open.
I was gonna say something about legs wide open
Yeah.
because I was looking at that, but
So
Yeah,
one's
for those
leg,
for those
it's
at
not
home,
open.
it's the lamp from Christmas Vacation. No, what's that movie called?
Christmas Vacation.
But it's not an actual lamp. It's just a picture of a lamp that's actually a
It's the leg.
trash can.
It's the
You
leg.
fools!
It's the leg lamp from
What's it called? Gone in 60
Kevin.
Seconds.
Why can't we think of that Christmas movie?
Christmas
Home
Story?
Alone.
No, not Home Alone. A
Christmas Story. Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
Christmas
Right.
I've never seen a Christmas Story.
Home
so that's
Alone.
fine.
Where am I at?
I said it's Gone in 60
Elmhurst.
seconds. So anyway, all that being aside, the West is wide open, and the Houston Rockets have been knocking on the door of a championship the last 2 years, but the Warriors have stood in their way. Now, no more Warriors in their way, but it seems like they have this inner turmoil. But I mean, if they can figure this out, they're certainly one of the favorites, right?
I wouldn't say certainly the favorites.
No, I would say
but
uncertainly.
they're kind of similar to the Celtics in that they have a GM who Kyle likes more than Danny, but
But he's Daryl draft picks.
He's not Daryl draft picks.
But he's a bold general manager who's well regarded in the league, who changes up the team pretty frequently. And I think I have a lot more confidence in the Rockets' ability to fill out the roster around their two stars than I do in the Lakers.
The difference with Daryl and Danny is that I think we've seen Daryl's not really afraid to spend his assets that he has to improve his team for the short term.
It's because his assets aren't as good.
What would you say
Because
Danny
he keeps trading them to improve.
That's what the Kyrie trade was, though. That's exactly what Danny did. He traded the Nets pick, which was considered to be their best asset, and Isaiah Thomas, who was a 30-point-per-game scorer, for Kyrie Irving for what turned out to be the short term. So, I mean, that's...
Yeah, but it wasn't expected to be short term, was it?
Okay, well, that's even better then, right? It makes the decision better by Danny then.
I think Daryl's a better GM than Danny.
I think they're probably two of the top five, right?
Yeah. I think most people.
I guess I don't know that many
but...
GMs except for your boy from Milwaukee.
I wish I remembered his name.
Was it Daryl Hammond or whatever? Or is that the creative Jurassic Park again?
That was a creative Jurassic Park.
John Hammond, wasn't it?
Oh, no, that's the guy from Jurassic Park, isn't it?
No, it's John Hammond.
Who's the guy from Jurassic Park? Look up the guy from Jurassic Park. The guy who created Jurassic Park. Like
George Lucas?
No, in the show.
Al Rossetti.
In the movie, who made Jurassic Park?
In the movie?
Yeah.
Who made the movie?
No, who made the park in the movie, the character's name. That's who I'm thinking of. And then also look up the Milwaukee Bucks.
The old guy with the cane.
Yeah.
That's what you mean.
Yeah. While he's doing that,
we got someone on that very important business.
John Hammond created the park.
Oh, so John Hammond created the park. So Daryl Hammond must have been the Milwaukee Bucks.
I don't think it was a Daryl.
It's not Daryl.
Wait, isn't...
Daryl Philbin from The Office?
This podcast is going off the rails.
Isn't it always?
But, okay, what I want to say
John
about
Horst.
Horst! Wait, wasn't John Hammond
the old...
Look up the old GM that's now the GM for another team.
Daryl Morey?
No, like, I think he's like the Magic's GM or something like that.
Whose last name is Hammond?
I think his name is also John Hammond.
Becky Hammond is the assistant coach for the Spurs.
Yeah, and she created...
Wow, John Hammond.
That's why I always get confused.
That? Orlando.
The former GM of the Bucks is John Hammond, and he also created Jurassic Park.
Right. We've come full circle.
Anyway, now that that's settled, what I was going to say about Houston is that when they first got traded, when Chris Paul first got traded to the Rockets, this is what I was worried about, and it's kind of funny that it took 2 years to materialize.
Yeah.
You know, because I think I maybe said this to you guys when it first happened. I'm worried, like, Chris Paul is really dominant on the ball, and so is James Harden. Like, I kind of usually hate when people say there's only one ball, but in this case, there really is only one ball. Do you know?
They played well
four
together,
balls,
though.
I guess, with both of them.
5. They played well together.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny that it took this long for any turmoil.
Here's the other thing, though, is the Rockets, as you're saying, Daryl made this decision where he traded a bunch of assets for, like, short term to make the team great, right? And now you see those assets on the Clippers, Montrezl Harrell, Patrick Beverley, whoever else they traded, maybe actually panning out to Lou Williams, exactly. Maybe panning out to create a championship team for the Clippers if they can add Kawhi. So maybe that's just one of those times where both teams are happy with their trade, but I think the Clippers are probably set up for more long-term success. And I think, Kyle, your point of, like, you could just keep trading in for the future and then never actually come to the present where you're good.
Right.
But finding that balance is what all teams are looking for.
Yeah.
And Daryl and Danny are just, like, kind of on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But
it'd be funny if the Clippers won a championship before the Rockets.
And they have higher odds at this point, right?
No, they're about the same, actually. 10-1, 9-1. See? I'm learning.
Right.
I mean, obviously, that depends on Kawhi. And obviously, the Rockets have been closer than the Clippers have in the past years. But
yeah,
it'd be a kind of sweet justice.
I just wonder, was it game 5 against the Warriors when Harden, like, didn't do anything in the fourth quarter?
I think so.
And I wonder if, just thinking back on that, was that, like, he and Chris Paul had been, like, having these arguments, and then he's like, you know what, fine, see what happens if I don't shoot in the fourth quarter, and you can try to win the game.
This is what
wild speculation.
This is what I talked about before the series, where, like, I just have more faith in a Warriors type offense that's egalitarian with a lot of ball movement and cuts off of screens than I have in an offense that works very well in the regular season, where James Harden just does 90% of the work and finds open shooters, but that just doesn't work in the playoffs. And I mean, I'm glad, because I don't like watching it. Mm-hmm. I don't like watching the Jazz players just hump Harden into a floater every time.
I enjoyed it.
I mean, I can see that on Pornhub if I want, but
So, in present, now that everything is fine with Paul, Harden, and Daryl, they are looking at trading Capella still.
Clit? That's gonna be big for my fantasy team. He's a yearly player.
You can't get rid of the Clit.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. You can.
Sometimes you can't find it.
That's true. You gotta pull back the hood sometimes. I don't know. Put the kids to bed if it hasn't been said.
Dear God, I swear to God. It's a 1:30 p.m., but they should still be in bed.
Do you know the Clitoris has, like, 100 times more nerve endings than the head of a penis?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Does he think we're not aficionados of the clitoris?
The female reproductive system?
Anyway, back to Capella. Who would take that contract, though? I guess it's pretty favorable, kind of.
Boston has been looking at it, I've seen.
I wouldn't mind that.
Seth would. I wouldn't mind it, but it's like he's not better than Horford, so I would rather just kept Al.
Right, yeah.
But he's younger.
But do you think Al's contract is going to be bigger than Klit's? What's Klit, $80 million? That's not even that much. I mean, for me, it'd be a lot. Look up Klit's contract right now. Why are you going back in your history? You already looked it up? You just typed in Houston Rockets, nothing else. Because I think Klitz is like 4 years, $80 million or something like that, and he's pretty young. Well, Al's might be like near or higher than that number.
But I don't know.
I mean, sure, Al's proven he's better for winning, I guess.
Okay, here's the thing.
Klit's making 16.5 this year, 17.5 2020 season, and 18.5 2021 season, and then 19.5 in 2022. That's pretty.
Well, here's the big
thing. He's under contract for a while,
but here's the thing we don't think about. You can't play Al out of a playoff game. He's always gonna be your crunch time. You can play Klit out of certain matchups, right? You know, when you're stuck in the pick and roll.
It just depends on what Clint Capella you get.
Yeah.
I feel like the way the league is trending now, like against the Warriors, Kevon Looney outplayed Clint Capella.
Right.
He had a really poor series. I don't know if something was wrong with him.
Yeah, I don't know
maybe.
if
he couldn't catch a ball, so that was
But
weird.
it just feels like if that's your center, where they're just a rim running, setting screens, catching lobs, being a rim protector, you can kind of find those guys pretty easily, and you don't need to pay big money, right? The Warriors aren't like Kevon Looney is just some guy. I mean, he's played well and he's been clutch, but it's not like somebody that they're going to give a big contract to. So I'm kind of like, if that's who my center is, I don't know if I really want to pay them to be the best version of that. You know, whereas Al has a lot more talents. He plays better defense. He can shoot at least an outside jumper, shoot top of the key threes. Like you said, you can't play him off the court. He's a good passer. So I don't know. I'm kind of lukewarm about that.
He's only 25.
But he's never going to develop. Well,
he had his best offense. He had his best year this year that he's ever had. He averaged like 16 and 12.
Well, because he knew I drafted him for my fantasy team. I mean, he's never gonna probably have an outside jump shot, and he's probably never gonna be as good as Al is at defending the pick and roll, right? So
he's a good rim protector, though.
He is for sure. You want to go to the draft?
Yeah, might as well. I got to
Kyle,
get back to
this is your time to shine because me and Seth know nothing. Tell us about the draft that just happened yesterday. The NBA draft, you might say.
We watched the first 14 picks.
Yeah, we did. Together. We held hands the whole time.
How was that?
Sexually or otherwise?
Sexually.
Good.
Nice.
Otherwise? Okay.
Got it.
The wings were pretty good. Tenders, actually.
Interesting draft. That's for sure. Obviously, I already told you Pelicans blew it out of the water with their picks. Another team, though, that, strikingly had an incredible draft tonight was Memphis. We knew they were going to take Ja, not John.
Jonathan Morant? Yeah.
We knew they were going to take Ja with the second pick. There were reports that teams were looking into getting that second pick, but basically Memphis said, unless it's like, an offer that we can't refuse, we're not getting rid of that pick because we want Ja.
They should have. I think Ja was the second best player in the draft, so.
Yeah, exactly. And then they had one other pick, which they turned into Brandon Clark, which...
My dad wanted him for the Celtics.
Yeah. The fact that he fell to 21 was really surprising me. I think
he's just not going to be bad, yeah.
There's no doubt that he's a better player than Rui Hachimura, who was taken top 10 somehow.
He is now, for sure, I think.
And, he just has so many skills that translate to the NBA that he was, especially at 21, a can't-lose draft pick, pretty much, in my opinion. Cause,
yeah. I mean, he might not be a star, but I think he's I think his floor is solid role player,
I mean, defensively around the rim, he is an animal. He is nuts. So I like that they added some some defense. I think it's going to be really interesting watching Ja, him, and then see how they incorporate Jaren Jackson Jr. into that too, because they're both power forwards. So I don't know if they're Jaren, though, I think played center.
They could play him at center
amount,
if they have like a... Yeah, Brandon would play well next to him, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. So I really liked what they did. I was really confused with Boston's first pick. They picked Romeo Langford out of IU, a shooting guard who basically can't shoot.
Can he guard, though? I've made that joke 3 times. It's only gotten chuckles every time, but I'm still going to keep making it.
I think he's more of a wing, but that's just
so obviously
cursory knowledge.
Reports of a hand injury, but last year that he was dealing with, he still only shot like 26% from the college 3-point line, and he was never that great of a 3-point shooter anyways. So from what I read after that pick and last night and this morning was that Brad Stevens loved him. He's basically going to be
Marcus Smart 2.0.
He's going to be a kind of a project, which I don't know about spending your first pick. What was that? He was picked 14th. Spending that on a project player, but
Well, if you're losing Kyrie and Allen, you're not going to be title contender anyway, I guess,
Right, so that was interesting. But then they, in the second round, ended up getting Carson Edwards, which I really thought the Warriors were going to take him. That's at least the reports I read, and he would have fit well in that team as a role player.
Quinn
loves
Cook
big,
style.
Quinn Cook. I guess you have Quinn Cook, so you didn't necessarily need him. But then again, they got a guard at that pick anyways. Who did the Warriors take? They took
Dick Trickle Sr.
Help me out here. You're not gonna help me.
Oh, yeah.
Jordan Poole from Michigan.
Yeah.
I would have preferred, obviously.
Carson.
Carson.
Didn't Carson score like 40 points every game in the tournament?
Dude, Carson was nuts.
I watched him in the tournament, so
but he seems really small though.
He is small. I think he's like 6'1" or something.
Yeah, soaking wet.
With shoes.
Yeah.
He is.
Maybe he's gonna be like a little Isaiah.
He is 6 foot. Yeah.
They
but he
always
has
lie
a
about
6'6"
that,
wingspan. I don't know. So I like Carson, but
isn't that just what you have to be in the NBA? You have a longer wingspan than your height, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My wingspan is probably like 5'2", soaking wet.
Atlanta with a also really interesting draft too. Obviously trading up so that they can take DeAndre Hunter 4th. It's going to be interesting though because drafting another power forward when you already have.
He's gonna slide at small forward, I think.
You think so?
Yeah. Or actually, no. He's gonna slide at shooting guard, I think, for them because they have Kevin
DeAndre
Huerter.
Hunter.
Yeah, because they have Kevin Huerter.
He's 6'8".
Tall shooting guard. Well, they're all wings, whatever.
Yeah.
They're probably just. They're going to be ass
positions.
anyway. It doesn't matter. It's probably going to be Trey, DeAndre, Kevin Huerter.
Huerter will probably play the 2, I think.
What's their
John
power
Collins.
forwards? John Collins and Davis center? Or is John in their center?
Who?
Is John Collins going to play center then?
That's what I was wondering. If they're going to slot John to center and just have DeAndre play the 4, most likely. I like DeAndre Hunter, though. He was awesome at Virginia. He has a lot of stuff that translates to the NBA. Interesting, though, at 10 to take Cam Reddish, who
took him?
Atlanta.
Oh, they did.
Yeah. I don't know. He obviously physically is an incredible player, but he just didn't really show a whole lot last season at Duke. And, that's hard, though, to interpret because Duke also had 2 players that went ahead of him at the 1 and the 3 pick? Yeah, with RJ and Zion. So it's kind of hard to be able to find your shot in an offense like that. So
I'm a little concerned that he has a little Andrew Wiggins in him where he just disappears for half the game.
Yeah. So that was an interesting pick to take at 10, but what was it? The second round, though, I think they picked up, kind of a project player out of Maryland, Bruno Fernando. I remember watching him in the tournament, and he was impressive, but, there's just some holes in his game that, like I said, it's going to be a project and they're going to need to work on. But
the 76ers got my boy Admiral Schofield, so they're probably going to win the title next year.
Yeah.
Definitely.
With a name like Admiral, it's got to be right.
Also, surprisingly, Cleveland had a really good draft. You'd think I'd ever say it.
That's shocking. Who's even their GM now?
Like 2 GMs, so why are you asking?
Is it Daryl Morey or Danny Ainge? If not, then I don't know.
So, it was interesting, obviously, with the 5th pick taking another point guard. But I think what they did was that early in the draft, a lot of times there's arguments of, do you just draft talent or do you draft what you need? And I think they leaned more towards drafting talent. And at that point, Darius Garland was probably the most talented player on the board. Maybe not in my mind, because I think there were a lot of steals late that should have went higher up. But point guard wise, he was definitely the best point guard available. But you also have a point guard in Colin Sexton who's going to be going into his second year, so I don't really know what they're going to do.
So me and Seth were watching an outrageous video today where this guy claimed that they were becoming the Blazers of the East, like that's their own Dame and CJ. But the problem is both these players are worse and smaller. So
I mean, I can see that. Well, Colin Sexton was really actually impressive like the last 2 months of the season, and Darius Garland is a much more prolific shooter than.
But the problem is neither of them really
is.
play make that much. Like they're more scorers, from what I've seen. But maybe that'll develop with time. I don't know.
Yeah, so
whatever. They're going to be asked anyway. What do they care?
I mean, the East is wide open too, so you never know. But
you heard it here first. Cleveland's making the playoffs this year.
Though one of those steal picks that I was talking about late round was Cleveland trading up and getting the wet bucket Dylan Windler. I don't know if you watched him at all. He was in the tournament. Yeah.
No, the wet bucket? Do you think I didn't watch that?
No, dude he's honestly a monster. Like he's like the Loch Ness.
They're allowed to play monsters in the starting five?
No, he is has very translatable skills also to the NBA, to where he is incredible from deep. That's basically, his forte is the deep shot, and then he's a very good ball handler too. So I know you got Darius Garland and you got Sexton, who's mostly going to control the ball, but I think as a late first round flyer on a guy, he was definitely the best pick that they could have made. They're turning into a really fast team, and I don't think people are thinking about that. So it's going to be interesting. They're going to be a lot more transition friendly.
Good. Kevin Love can throw those outlet passes.
Right. Yeah.
Those really get me going.
They sure do.
So it was an interesting draft overall. The Clippers got my guy though.
Oh, wait, say his name.
Mafiandu Kabengele.
It was funny because yesterday when we were watching the draft, he couldn't think of his name.
I couldn't think of his first name. I was like, Kabengele. What's his first name?
He was so disappointed in himself. I'm like, I'm not going to blame you for forgetting Mafiandu.
But I don't know. They added. He was incredible at Florida State last year. The one thing that I seen a lot talked about was his assist ratio, which was he assists on 2% of the plays that he was in on.
Sounds like me.
Roughly.
But at the same time, he's at Florida State and he was their biggest scoring threat. So in a position like that, I don't really know how much they were even asking him to make passes. When there's no one else really on the floor that has your scoring ability, why are you gonna make those passes when you score at the efficiency that he was scoring at? So, and defensively, he's awesome. He's great from deep. I think he shot 30-something% from three as a power forward. He was a steal. Another steal. A lot of late round steals.
Wow.
We'll see. I feel like every year after the draft, you talk about how great all the players are, and then 2 years later, we've forgotten about 2/3 of them.
Yeah.
You know what I wish happened more? In baseball, you see so many teams compiling these great minor league players in hopes that they make it to the MLB, and when they do, it's something something comes from it. But in the NBA, I wish the G League was more proficient in actually trying to accumulate talent so that they can make it to the NBA.
I think that's what they want the G League to turn to, is basically the minor leagues in the NBA. So we'll see.
I hope that happens.
Me too. Yeah. All right. Well, anything else? Any final thoughts? Me and Kyle have to go see a man about a car about a dog. So isn't that the last line of Good Will Hunting? I have to go see a car about a girl about a car.
I have to go see about a girl.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was pretty close.
Yeah.
Well, Marc Gasol is an NBA champion and the love of my life. So this has been another edition of the Marc Gasol podcast where we discuss all things Marc and Spain. He chugged an entire bottle of wine at the Prid.
That was incredible.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
Well, what else do you expect from a Spaniard?
That's very true. Seth, any
Of
thoughts?
his stature.
I know you always have final
I
thoughts.
do not.
What is this podcast, though? It's the...
We haven't done that in a while.
Should
I don't know
bring
why
it
we
back?
haven't.
It's the podcast that no one wanted, no one needed, and no one deserved.
That's not what it was.
Yeah, you blew
But
it.
No one deserved, no one wanted, no one
Something
asked
happened.
for.
Something happened though on the third day.
I think he tuliped.